this is all rather new to me, so I'm just going to quickly go through this new jelly plate that is by Nellie Snellen, who normally makes the die, so it's quite interesting to have a play with this. It's a very good price for what it does, and obviously you can take monoprints from it. So here we got it here. It comes with 2 bits of plastic either side, and I would heavily suggest keeping those, because what do you do with it afterwards when you need to store it? So it's most useful to keep those plastic pieces. So I'm just going to stick it down onto a non-stick sheet. Now I'm using the Fresco finish paints for this, but Fresco finish paints are a chalk finish, and the reason they work so well is that they are quick to dry. So they have now brought out this little piece of liquid called a drying retarder. So if you add a few drops to this, you will be able to get good prints from your jelly print. I'll show you one that I made a mistake of. If you see that, can you see it's all ripped? There's a reason for that. Acrylic paint is made up of a polymer base, and polymer base, like PVA glue, is a glue. So if you let it dry, it sticks. So just bear in mind, work quickly, and the drying retarder will really help that from happening. But I've got some quite interesting pieces, so even though that is a mess, I will still use it. Oh, it does wash off. A spritz of water, and also oh, this one's terribly, you can just about see what it is. It's the brush and stencil cleaner by DecoArt Media. A little couple of drops of this and that'll all be clean. So let's get started. I'll start with a base colour, and I'll go for turquoise. So I'm mixing up that with a couple of drops of the drying retarder. Just a couple of drops just to keep it loose. And then give that a little stir. And then we'll get that on the plate. So I'm using a roller for this, just easier. Stops making any brush strokes if you want brush strokes, or you could sponge it on. This is entirely up to you, but I think a roller makes it nice and quick and easy, and when you've got paint that is going to dry quickly, the quicker the better. So I'll just roll that on. I'll do a plain print to start with, because it makes a nice base for if you're doing other things. But simply place it on, smooth it down, make sure you get all the corners, and then lift it off, and you've got a base colour. So that's great for then building the layers. Now what I would suggest with jelly printing is it's all about the layers. The more layers the better. So the first technique I'm going to use, I'll be rolling out some more colour while I'm talking, is with the mixed media art combs. Now yes, you can think, oh well, I can use an ordinary comb, but these ones are very soft. If you can see, they're very pliable, so they won't damage your plate. One thing you don't want to do is get any kind of damage or scratches on your plate, because if you ever want a smooth print, you're never going to get it, because those will have scratched into the surface permanently. Right, so I'm going to try with the comb, and as you can see, it's dead easy, and you can just use any side of the comb and create texture. So there's another one in there with different textures, so you can have great fun with that. So I'll just quickly take that, because like I said, don't let it dry. Press it down, and again lift up. Fabulous print. For clean up, we'll just give it a little squidge. You could take a second print, but like I said, with acrylic paint you're taking a risk because it gets sticky. But if you're quick, before the paint has had time to even attempt to dry, it's a really quick clean up. And then just with a slightly damp towel, I'll just take the excess off. So we've done the first layer. Now we can think about other layers on top. We can try with a different colour. So I'm going to chuck in a secondary colour now. I'm going to go, I'll show you that one, glass blue. So don't forget, again, always remembering to add that drying retarder, because if you don't, it's going to stick. So I think there's about 3 drops in it for the puddle that I've made. It's probably a little more than they suggest, but I'm finding that if you only do the 1 drop per that amount of size, like the 5%, it's just not quick, it's not slow enough, and then you'll get that sticking. I'm not even bothering to clean anything at this point because they're both blues and they're not going to clash. It's just going to change the colour slightly, so that doesn't bother me. So here we go with the next colour, and we're rolling that one on. The nice thing, acrylic paint does not on paper take terribly long to dry, so my first print that I've made should be ready to go. Oops, having fun here. Right, I'm going to show you with the stencils. There is a range of stencils as well, and this is one of them. I'll put it down. Just purely by accident, I was having a play and I found this really lovely way of doing it. But what I'm going to do is this one, I'm building it up, but this is taking my excess off. So I'm putting that down on the stencil and rubbing. So we take that off, and I can see you can build up quite some nice texture there. But when I take that off, you can see the stencil has picked up the paint, and there's some really lovely pattern going on there. So I'm going to take my one that I've done before, roughly line it up. I'm not excellently perfect at this, but I don't believe you have to be. This is the whole thing about printmaking. It's kind of random and you never know what you're going to get. So making sure I get those corners, because they have a tendency to curl up, lifting up, and there we go. And you've got the texture. I do love that. Can you see with the light? I've done another one with this texture. I should just find that now. And there we go. That one's with the lighter colour. It really does start to look like a brick wall. I really like that one. But like I said, this is all about layering and having play, having fun. I would suggest this is not the thing you get out just to make one sheet of paper. This is a kind of batch process. You just sit there half an hour, and just have a mess around. And what you produce are loads of backing papers that can then be used in other projects. So there was one other thing I wanted to quickly show you, and then I'll show you some of the finished ones so you can see those. The other thing that I was loving is that you can use ink pads as well. So, and of course Distress ink is really good for this, because Distress ink is designed to not dry too quickly. So they have a long open time, that's the word for being able to stay wet for longer. So they are absolutely perfect for this. But I can really see some potential here for some other projects. Ideally I'd love to roller it, but hey, forgot to wash the roller. so we'll go with it. I'm going to use a brush and get some texture on. And there we go. Then you can use stamps. So for this I'm using the Eclectica PaperArtsy stamps, and I love those leaves. They're going to be perfect for this. The nice thing is, like I said, those distress inks aren't going to dry anytime soon. I wouldn't like to disappear and leave them for hours, but they're certainly going to be long enough for you to get some work done on them. Right, so I think maybe, because I've used that bright green, I'm going to use a brown. See if we can go vintage autumnal, hopefully. So there we go. But this is the thing, I do not know what this is going to look like. I really do not know. The reason my green is darker, my brown is darker than my green. If I was using a dark colour and then putting a light, I would not go back to my ink pad, because you're going to have green all over it. Because if you can see, when you put the brown down, you take some of the green off. So just bear that in mind. If you're worried about it, just have a little piece of paper by and just take that bit off. But you can see it's not too green. So I shouldn't have any risk of contamination. There's nothing worse than then going back to the stamp thinking you're going to get brown, and you go and use it and hey ho, it's gone green. I think we're okay. I'm just going to do a little piece here just to finish it off, and I'll be quick about it because, like I said, I don't want to be too long. The stamp can be cleaned afterwards. I will be cleaning it. I don't leave my stamps dirty. So, press it down. This is great for reverse stamping, like when you have a stamp facing one way and you want it facing the other. Oh, look at that. It looks fantastic. Really pleased with that. And make a great background. But like I said, I think the inks are possibly even easier to work with than the paint, but you get a totally different look. I'll try that and see what happens. This is the problem, you just keep going and 20 pages later and the day has gone. Oh yes, that looks lovely. You've still got the brown. I couldn't even see that then, but the print was still there. So you've still got the brown from the previous print, and then I've put another print on top. So, like I said, just with this one, you can easy clean. So if you want a little play and not get too messy, I recommend the inks. But if you want to go full throttle, the paints are definitely the way to go. So I hope you enjoyed that. I definitely will be doing some more with these gel prints, because there is definitely much more that I can be making